We're here today in the context in Canada of a cost of living crisis. We have 1 in 4 Canadians saying that they're going to be using food banks this fall. We know that rent prices have doubled, mortgage prices have doubled, and the Prime Minister's media buddy, who's making a very healthy salary by any measure compared to Canadian salaries, is getting a $9 million condo for his use as a residence. I know you said that its primary purpose was as a workspace, but if it's clocking on average about 2 business functions per month, and he's sleeping there 30 times per month, it sounds like its primary purpose is as a residence. Who signed off on the decision, sir? The most senior person who signed off? Just the name, please.
Mr. Chair, the transaction was signed by the Deputy Head of Mission based on a written delegation from the Director General responsible for real property planning and stewardship.
Who is the Director General?
The Director General is part of our real property team and who was supported by the governance and the process that was reviewed.
And the DG's name is?
And the DG's name is Frank Uzimbe.
And the deputy head of, and it was the deputy head of mission who had the delegated authority, and who's the deputy head of mission at the time?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to clarify that the mission actually are not part of the approval process or the decision making. The mission, the DHOM, was actually had the authority from headquarters, the DG, who had the authority to sign that transaction, which is understandable.
The name, sir?
Rob McCubbin.
Perfect.
Yeah.
In 2018, the Office of the Consul General and the Embassy to the United Nations moved into a joint workspace, which primary purpose is work, near Grand Central Station in New York City. So that facility has an executive dining room, if I understand correctly, and a reception space for up to 150 people. Is that correct? Just a yes or no, because I have a substantive question.
Mr. Chair, yes, the environment has an area that can accommodate. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the full kitchen that would be required, which would drive us to actually have quite expensive costs for actually providing the food by a caterer.
Okay, so does Mr. Clark prepare the food himself at his apartment, or is there a caterer or a hired chef that does that?
Mr. Chair, I'd be pleased to answer that question. I'll turn very quickly to the DG.
I think we know the answer is that there are third-party costs associated with the food preparation, irrespective of where it happens. My substantive question is, why is the executive space that was purpose-built in 2018 for use by the Consul General and use by Canada's ambassador to the United Nations not sufficient, and that we had to incur millions of dollars of extra expenses that are going to be financed through the taxes of Canadians who are struggling to survive in the form of a $9 million penthouse on Billionaires Row in New York City for Justin Trudeau's media buddy? Why couldn't we use the space that was purpose-built instead of getting this this luxurious location that's primary purpose is just for Mr. Clark's lodgings?
Mr. Chair, I'll welcome this question where we can actually articulate the space requirement that we provide and the reason behind it. I'll turn very quickly to the ADM of real property that can articulate the need that are actually identified as we provide this kind of like space. So I'll turn to Mr. Robin Dubois that can articulate more details about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As in opening remarks, we said the official residence is served as a place of living, but also as a platform for representation. We do have representation space at the consulate that is now amalgamated with the mission to the United States nation. We did that in 2018 to create savings and synergies. There is representational space in the office, but it doesn't allow for the kind of activities and representation that the official residence would. The new official residence has been acquired. It is smaller. It can accommodate smaller.
Thanks very much. We heard all of that information already. That was it took you a minute to not offer us any new information. We had previous representatives in the space. I think now Senator Pamela Wallin occupied the previous residence, identified it as sufficient. the $1.8 million estimate for renovations of the old residence suddenly became insufficient in 2023, which was right around the time that that Mr. Clark was the new head of mission, or the new consul general there. What happened that got the ball rolling there? Was it Mr. Clark that initiated the request? And if it was not Mr. Clark, who was it?
Mr. Chair, I welcome this question. I'd like to start by saying that there was no influence from Mr. Clark. He was not involved in the consultation or decision process.
So would you be able to table all correspondence on the subject of the new residence, or the transition to a discussion on a new residence instead of renovations?
Mr. Chair, as explained, we have a governance that's actually managed by headquarters, and we'd be pleased to actually table what the whole process is and how we got to
The correspondence, sir. You'll table the correspondence?
Mr. Chair, I can look at what's available and get back to you on that.
Well, if there was correspondence, you'll table it?
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.